Good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. And we're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple Television, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, January 9th, 2023, and we're literally live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Well, let's begin by welcoming anchor FayWhat. She's a radio and television personality and has a popular blog and YouTube channel aiming to unite the L and the G together. She's a hostess and MC for many South Florida events, an animal advocate, and owner of Faye's Fur Family. Also, make sure to catch the FayWhat Show, the first LGBTQ+ morning show, Mondays at 9 a.m. Eastern, online or your smart television. And by the way, Faye was the winner of the 2022 SFGN Best Local Television Personality. Welcome, Faye.
Welcome. So happy to be at this table with all you boys. And I want to take a moment to send a big birthday shout out to the woman who has my heart. I love you so much. You don't look your age. A day is not complete without a makeup session with you. Happy birthday. I love you endlessly. I can't live without you. Padme, my dog. She's 12 years old today. Happy birthday, baby girl. I love you. I know she's watching me right now. Stop scratching at the screen. Tell mommy to go take you out.
She dragged us right into
Yeah, we fell. We
really thought.
I was like, that's not even Teresa's birthday. What the hell's going
well,
on?
this is going to be a nice tribute to Teresa. You know, it's her dog.
Yes, and also this morning on the FayWhat Show, we had Kelly Raspberry on, all right? If you love local queens, she is so funny in bed. Make sure that you watch it anytime on demand. All right, next up, let's welcome Evyn Almanzar, a trans student at J.P. Taravella High School, where he is deep in the drama and intrigue of sophomore year. He has been publicly speaking out as an advocate for mental health and queer student rights since the age of 12. A lover of writing and nature, who often enjoys both at the same time. Evyn was a member of the Don't Say Gay rally this last February, where he said, quote, "On Queer News Tonight, I want to make people hear us as a student body, as well as members of the LGBTQ+ community, and let them know how they can help," end quote. Welcome back, Papito.
Thanks, Faye. Oh my gosh, your dog tribute was lovely. Let's welcome anchor Elijah Manley. Elijah is a community organizer, activist, and formerly the youngest ever candidate for the Florida House of Representatives. He is the owner of Benchmark Strategies, a South Florida consulting firm. Welcome, Elijah.
Thank you. And before I get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to newly sworn in Gen Z Congressman Maxwell Frost. Welcome to the U.S. Congress, and thank you for representing Gen Z.
And hasn't he had an interesting
Quite an
4 or 5 days? Right.
Kind of glad I'm not there. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee in the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column called Screensaver can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening, and I'm so happy to be back after a couple of weeks off. It's nice to see.
You were gone?
Nice. Am I even here?
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you,
So
thank
sorry.
you.
Welcome back, Poppy. Happy New Year.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Yeah, thank you. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Monday, January 9th, 2023, and you may be shocked to learn this.
Oh, I am. I'm shocked, and it hasn't even been said.
But today is National Static Electricity Day.
Is it? Thank you.
Yeah,
I am shocked.
I'm shocked. All right. First, we queer up politics. January 6th repeats with potential violence at the Capitol and concessions to the greatest anti-LGBTQ gang ever. January 6th is an important date in American history. In 2021, it was the date the U.S. Capitol was attacked by extremists from public enemies outside of our government. On January 6, 2023, it was again an important date in American history for attacks inside our government. On the 15th vote, Republican U.S. Representative Kevin McCarthy has finally been elected Speaker of the House. The largest number of votes since the Civil War, his bid to become Speaker, now that the Republicans again have a majority, drew opposition from the most extreme right wing of his party. McCarthy won the speakership with 216 votes to Democrat Hakeem Jeffries' 212. The Speaker must win a majority of votes cast. Present votes don't count as votes cast, and 6 Republicans voting present lowered the total needed to achieve a majority. All Democrats had consistently voted for Jeffries, who will be the first black lawmaker to have a leadership position in the body. After the 14th vote, things got heated on the House floor. Republican Representative Mike Rogers of Alabama lunged at another GOPer, yes, our Florida son, Representative Matt Gaetz. And Rogers was restrained by others while pointing a finger at Gaetz, something seen as a hostile gesture since Gaetz had voted present on McCarthy's nomination after being expected to possibly vote yes. The Alabama Republican was restrained, including a hand over his mouth while yelling, and that caused most of the House and McCarthy turning to the disturbance on the floor. Gaetz had consistently refused to support McCarthy and had even threatened to resign if McCarthy became Speaker, but he had appeared more conciliatory earlier in the evening in an interview on Fox News. When Gaetz and Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado again voted present in the 15th round, 4 other Republicans who'd supported alternatives to McCarthy voted present as well, therefore lowering the threshold to a majority. Many Democrats posted memes and pictures with bags of popcorn to signify the drama they were watching. But while amusing, the situation is really no joke. It is a very ominous sign for the LGBTQ plus community. To finally secure his win, McCarthy had to agree to dramatic new rules that enable the Freedom Caucus, the most conservative group in Congress, and especially that subset called MAGA Squad. It's a group of 20 of the most anti-LGBTQ plus members of Congress to now have real power for such a small but vocal minority. This group, of course, includes Gaetz and Boebert and Georgia's infamous MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has repeatedly been censored by her own Republican leadership. Now, with Republican control and these extreme new rules, the House is expected to push a far-right agenda as McCarthy has made concessions to his extremist opponents that will likely be very bad news for the American LGBTQ plus community in 2023. The news is really terrible, and one of the things I watched live, there was a whole group of us commenting in group text when this was going on January 6th. Watching the hand put over the Alabama representative's mouth and what we were watching. And one of the things I thought is, how is this different philosophically from what we watched in 2021, except it was outside the chambers instead of inside the chambers? It's the same similar kind of feel of personality. And the second thing I thought is, we're watching a similar situation in Israel that people around the world have been very vocal about. The problem that even Netanyahu has is Netanyahu is conservative, but then there's crazy conservative.
Oh, yeah.
And to get extreme, and to get a government put together, he has to bring them in. And I was thinking, wait, what's different in the Netanyahu government and the McCarthy government? I don't see any difference.
Absolutely. I also noticed something about the extremist far right, is that they tend to do things whatever they have to get their way. And it makes me think a little bit, is it not a little bit similar to fascist tactics that are just more socially acceptable?
Right out the book.
Yes.
More socially acceptable in America. And I don't understand why we are taking this sort of behavior in chamber from this. There need to be repercussions.
I don't know what it is about January 6th, which is my birthday, but I'll have the most eventful birthdays in U.S. history. Thank you. But also I wanted to point out that they're having a similar issue in Brazil. They're having their version of a
There's riots
right now.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of solidarity with our friends in Brazil as they overcome the Trump playbook.
Yeah.
Has anything like this ever happened?
To be honest with you, I not in our lifetimes.
Maybe before it was on camera.
Before there were cameras.
And one of the things that people continue to say is, if we had had cameras and good recording from 1850 to 1859, it's the only time in American history where we have seen such absolutism
and division
take place, of division, of Confederate slave thinking in the South, and the thinking for various reasons. And by the way, the North was not completely abscond. They don't get off scot-free over the issue of slavery, but they had a more moderate position than the South did. We saw clashes in that time in the 1950s, or in the 1850s, rather.
Well, as an entertainment journalist, I try to look for sort of more entertaining moments, and the fact that Mike Rogers and that dead squirrel on his head, that tacky, he went to the cheapest toupee shop in Alabama that he could find, and what he was yelling at Matt Gaetz is, how dare you have good hair and no brains? How dare you? And then they had to cover his mouth.
I wish I would have been.
Lip reading. It's all about lip reading.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for you.
Reminds me of Taken to the movie. Mouthful.
And we were, as I said, and Faye was in that group too. We were texting live with each other, and it was funny for a little bit.
Yeah.
But scary.
We were doing the popcorn thing too. But when the Alabama representative comes up, you could see in body language, wait, something's getting ready to happen. And the only thing that prevented that happening is the congressman that was behind him that reaches around. I don't know if you rewatch it, there was a hand that went on one shoulder, a different person's hand went on the other shoulder, and the representative that was directly behind him reaches around and puts his hand over his mouth like this and pulls him back.
Silence of the Lambs.
Only, right. It's the only thing that stopped them.
He was like a,
Is there audio on that video?
No, there
It
is.
was like a charging bull with a bad toupee.
Yeah.
Next week, Queer Up Education. Florida County bans books on true story on gay penguins, citing fear of don't say gay law. A county in Florida has banned 3 children's books, including one about 2 gay male penguins who adopt an egg, claiming that the books run afoul of Florida's don't say gay law. Lake County Schools has banned And Tango Makes 3, an award-winning children's book based on the true story of 2 gay male penguins in Central Park Zoo, who adopted an egg and raised the baby penguin hatched from it as their own. The school system has also banned A Day with Marlon Bundo, a story about a rabbit, the pet of former Vice President Pence, who falls in love with another male rabbit, and In Our Mother's House, a book about a family being headed by a lesbian couple, according to Popular Information. The justification for the removing of the books from library shelves was that the books contain content prohibited by Florida's parental rights and education law, dubbed the Don't Say Gay Law, which prohibits classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity, or sexual instruction on grades K to 3, and requires that any material broaching those topics in older grades be age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate. None of the books have content that would be considered sexual. Still, administrators have defended the decision, arguing that any information about the LGBTQ+ community, including books with LGBTQ+ characters, is inappropriate for elementary school students. I can't believe this is happening again over. Those books sound so wholesome.
Yeah.
I want to read that.
And Tango Mix 3 is it's not fiction. It's a true story about two penguins that helped hatch an egg and decided to give it a good upbringing. I don't understand.
Well, the truth is meaningless to those people.
Listen, you know what should be taken out of the libraries right now? Little Red Riding Hood. It talks about avoiding a sexual predator.
Right.
All right? I mean, think about that. And that's allowed
So
to be
many
read.
fairy tales, right?
I think Mike Pence might have gotten a little hurt by it. So
Yeah, the sad thing, and we hit it immediately. How do we modify our advocacy in 2023 to fight this kind of thing? Right. Because literally, this is a factual story of what happened in the Central Park Zoo. Mm-hmm. It is a fact of nature, and to deny it is basically denying the idea of, wait, the world is flat, it's not round. It's denying that there was a Holocaust. It was just a disagreement among friends. When you deal with people that are election deniers in this way, that are willing to say there is no truth, how do we deal with it? So it's ridiculous. This story is ridiculous. The important thing of the ridiculousness of the story is how do we modify and get popular support of the ridiculousness of the lie here and why they shouldn't have the power to enforce and do what they're doing.
Well, I think we have to tell the people that it's a lie. We can't be, trying to fight for civility politics, and what they're doing right now is
when there's evidence.
History. Right. And also, I think we should be arguing to the GOP base. I can't remember that study. I think last time I was here, we read a study that said a large percentage of even people in the GOP were against the Don't Say Gay law. And so when we keep speaking to them, go on Fox News and argue to them why their party is not talking about issues like housing, or we just had a session with property insurance. Why isn't that a priority? But
why isn't that important?
What we have to do is what we do is how we combat this is we keep shining. It's what we keep doing. Okay, My Hollywood Pride is going to bring back their story time, right, with Misty Eyes. That was a huge hit last year, and it was so beautiful to see this beautiful woman sitting there to these kids from like 4 to 12 reading a story, and they were loving it. Okay?
They were rapt, right?
One of the little girls, right, went back to school the next week. I got this story from Todd, right? One of the little girls went back to school the next week, and her assignment was to look for somebody that inspired her, right? So they thought, find somebody from history. The little girl wanted to do her report on Misty Eyes, the drag queen who had read a kid's story at My Hollywood Pride.
It's really beautiful.
That is.
That's how we change the world, one person at a time. Now, we queer up the worldview. Delhi Queer Pride Parade gives hope to estimated 100 million LGBTQ plus Indians. More than 2,000 members of the LGBTQ plus community and their supporters returned to New Delhi streets on Sunday after a 3-year break caused by the COVID-19 pandemic to press for equal marriage rights. Dancing to drum beats, they carried rainbow flags, balloons, and placards as they walked to the Jantar Mantar area near India's parliament for more than an hour. Vishal Rai, a 23-year-old participant in the parade, said, quote, "It's good, it's fabulous, because we are here to celebrate ourselves after 3 years," end quote. Their hopes have been raised by India's Supreme Court hearing petitions on granting legal recognition of same-sex marriage. The government is yet to legalize same-sex marriage, even though the Supreme Court in 2018 struck down a colonial-era law that made gay sex punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Most Hindu nationalist leaders say same-sex marriage is against India's culture. Although there are openly gay celebrities and some high-profile Bollywood films have dealt with gay issues, many in the community still face isolation and persecution. Noor Enya, a volunteer, is hopeful a change will come. She recalled that when she came out in 2003, there were next to zero acceptance. But 20 years later, things have improved. And Pride began as a protest, right, in 1970, after the riot in 1969. And these 2,000 people are protesters, all right? They're not out there, woohoo, they're out there promoting Pride, but they are advocates, they are out there. Somebody can see them, take a picture of them, and tell somebody else. They can still get in trouble for what they do in their personal lives, in their personal homes. And yet they still say, I don't care. I'm going to go into the streets with 2,000 people, and I'm going to be who I am.
Exactly. Be themselves, yes.
I think what you said on that, I can't believe that it took 20 years for her to find acceptance, though. And while it is so amazing, let's go.
Well, and it's also amazing how some unexpected places like this are moving in a progressive direction, while meanwhile, here at home, we're like sort of living in fear of what's going to happen to our futures.
The pendulum will swing.
Right?
It's like you say, Faye, it's to me, it's bravery. It's a lot of bravery because they can be hurt, killed out there, just being out there.
You know, a lot of this story is important to me for a different reason. We work, Hotspots Happening Out Television Network has a sizable staff in India that work on various related production things for our shows, for example. And I knew that Saturday in Delhi was a big deal because over the weekend I got 4 different texts going, please make sure. Somebody in India shared an Instagram video that somebody had done and posted. I really think you should look at this as a story that you include in Queer News Tonight. It's like, okay, I get it. This is really important to y'all.
Don't twist my arm.
And exactly. And it wasn't that 2,000 people came, because you think about it, we would say, oh, well, that's, you know, number wise, okay. But those 2,000 people represent a mountain. It's Everest in what's going on in India and the movements that are going on. India is talking about LGBT rights every single day. They are in 2014 and the beginning of 2015 in terms of marriage equality with their Supreme Court. Remember our times when we were in those days? That's where they are in India. So it's important from that standpoint. And we tell this story. We have a whole core of people in India that are going to watch this story and go, oh my God, the Americans are talking about us.
We know.
LGBT.
We see you.
We see you, yes. And the other thing is, I just want to provide a little quantification of our headline. 2,000 people come to Delhi Pride. Is the number significant? Yes, it's very significant because of how important it is in India. But think about it. Take the state of California and the state of Texas and the state of Florida and the state of New York and combine their populations all together. That's how many queer people there are in India.
Wow.
Thought you were going to say the entire country. But
The number is gigantic. Estimates are right around 100 million queer people.
That's amazing.
In India. And so when we sit in our bubble and go, you know, we're the center of the planet, maybe in terms of media
numbers
and finance, but in terms of numbers, just turn to India and China too, for that matter, and realize, my goodness, of all of the struggles that we face in this country, then you add what they face in India. We have a lot of brothers and sisters, as Elimination says, that we really need to help and stand up for.
So global
India,
fight.
we're thinking about you.
Next week, Queer Up Education. Texas introduces Don't Say Gay law even worse than Florida. On Tuesday, while the U.S. House of Representatives was in disarray due to Republican infighting, a lawmaker in Texas introduced his version of a Don't Say Gay law. State Representative Jared Patterson's bill, House Bill 1155, requires schools to disclose all information related to students' mental health information to their parents, which exposes children to being forced out of the closet by school officials and adds language to the state's education code that would restrict the instruction of topics on sexual orientation and gender identity. The bill's text reads, and I quote, "A school district, open enrollment charter school, or district or charter school employee may not provide or allow a third party to provide instruction regarding sexual orientation or gender identity to students enrolled in kindergarten through 8th grade, or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate." In a statement on his website, Patterson touts his bill as an improved version of Florida's draconian parental rights and education law, most often referred to as the Don't Say Gay law. Similarly, as with Florida's law, the language in Patterson's bill fails to define what is specifically age or developmentally appropriate, another issue that critics and LGBTQ+ advocates have brought up. And wow, that's all I can say.
Happening again. And I love how they mention that this is the better version of our bill. The better version.
It really translates as worse.
It's the scary
Way
version.
worse.
It's
Terrible.
the
Scary
that is, Texas is our dusty evil brother.
Right.
Yep.
Right? That, oh my God, it's just, you know, I worry about the kids. I always worry about the kids. But I am catapulted back to FayWhat when she was in 7th grade and she knew for sure that she was a lesbian, okay? I knew for sure that I liked my volleyball teacher a little too much, right? If I would have been outed to my mom, she would have sent me away.
Right.
Plain and simple, FayWhat would not be sitting here right now. She would have sent me somewhere to Colombia to have her family deal with me, and that would have been it for me, you know? And I'm those poor
A
children.
husband, children, completely different life.
Yeah.
A completely different life in the closet.
It's horrible. Once again, I do find myself tipping my 10-gallon hat at Texas for taking some of the heat off of Florida for being one of the most hateful places.
That's one way of looking at
Don't
it.
make us look so bad.
At least we're not Texas.
At least we ain't Texas.
Yeah.
Texas runs it back, but don't get too comfortable.
Yeah.
I
No.
think this session is going. We're going to
Oh,
run it
it's
back.
going to with supermajority in Florida, it's going to be terrible. One of the things I do want to quantify to make sure is crystal clear in the story you just did. The reason why, well, first off, can we at least tip our hats to the radical foaming in the mouth right-wing Republicans? They damn well know what they're doing. They are smart as all F.
Yeah.
They just are. Because they want what they want and they don't care how they're going to get it. They just don't. And in all due respect, and I'm just going to flat out say it, and I'm going to say it over and over again in 23, Michelle Obama, you're completely wrong. Completely. In 2023, when they go low, geez, we got to follow them in.
Go
Because
lower.
we can't go high. Because they'll kill us. As we go high, they take the knife and cut our throats. And that's what we just watched in Texas first. Second, how brilliant of an attack it is. They focus not on the interaction in the classroom. They focus on no third-party participants. Now, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Make sure you think this through in terms of if this law becomes law, it probably is going to become law. That means the Department of Education of the federal government is a third party and cannot interfere with our state law. That means that President Biden says, let's do this. I want to go into the classroom and talk about sexual orientation. No, that violates state law because you're a third party. The President of the United States becomes a third party. The National Education Association adopts policies that they say are acceptable in talking about gender identity in a classroom. No, you can't do that because you're a third party, and that is prevented in state law. Far more perverse than what we did here in Florida. And worst of worst, for all of those that argue we want to give parental rights and that be implemented by principals and even their own school boards in their districts. Your school board becomes a third party and can't interfere in the educational process in your own school because it violates state law.
It's eliminating everything.
It's a genius move.
Right.
An evil genius move.
An evil genius move to get what you want.
And a reminder, this is in light of what they did in their last session, where now parents can be investigated if they have a child.
Yeah, right. It's previously.
Exactly. And this has such a easier path in legal challenge. And this is what we face. We have to reinvent our political advocacy because what we did in 2018 doesn't work against Donald Trump.
No.
What we did in 2015 to get marriage doesn't work today. And we have to reinvent the foes that we're facing in our community. We just do.
And now we're going to clear up the worldview. U.S. State Department will spend $1.5 million to empower LGBTQ plus movements and communities across the world. The State Department's Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor announced the availability of $1.5 million in grant funding through the Global Equity Fund for LGBTQI plus communities to advance goals that include empowering local movements and addressing critical issues of justice. The department manages the GEF in partnership with other governments, businesses, and foundations dedicated to amplifying local LGBTQI plus voices and movements to catalyze positive change. Competition for the grants, the funding notice explains, is open for organizations submitting applications for projects that have the goal to provide lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex communities with the tools to empower local movements and communities, prevent, mitigate, and recover from violence, discrimination, stigma, and human rights abuses, promote full social inclusion, or address critical issues of justice. The GEF was formed under the Obama administration in 2011, and the Biden White House touted an increase in support for the fund in FY 2021 to $10 million annually. Last June, Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced that the GEF has disbursed $100 million since its inception. The GEF's Twitter account shows it recently co-founded an Out Proud For project, in which LGBTQI+ advocates convened for a hashtag Queer Without Borders themed forum in November. You know, when I hear stories such as this, it makes me wonder how any LGBTQI+ person in their right mind could possibly support any other political party by the Democrats. I mean, let alone be a log cabin syrup Republican. I mean, how can they be? Republicans would never do this kind of stuff.
It's because civil rights are not front and center. Money and power is front and center. That's
more
why
important to them. Yeah.
it's more important.
And a reminder, Trump tried to actually cut this program.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so I'm going to apply for a grant so I can get more lesbians out of college.
But you have to be in a foreign country.
Bye.
Be in the U.S. You can go to Colombia. You know, this is not a new idea. It's really interesting. I've read a lot about the GEF. This has been the policy of the United States for 75 years, really post-World War II. The reconstruction of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan was on the idea that it cost less to change Germany and Japan than fight a world war. So therefore, we should put American money into it. It became a phrase that was coined in the Korean War of foreign aid. And foreign aid by American policy is designed to influence other countries and people to the end results that we want, because it's cheaper in the long run. That's the idea of foreign aid. And it was successful largely through the 80s and then into the 90s. The collapse of communism and the collapse of strongmen in South America were all because we were investing our money to change attitudes by populations in the nations that we were focusing on. And it was largely successful. It's interesting that Obama takes that same philosophy and invests it in LGBT. That's what this program is designed to do. When they take a victory lap to say, you know, we've spent $100 million in the last decade, that is really admirable, because they're investing $100 million to change, instead of communism or a strong man at the top, their anti-LGBT beliefs and thinking in their country. That is an admirable goal. And this is just another step in that. Because imagine in that $1.5 billion that they invest they invest 300,000 of that 1.5 million on a nonprofit in Kenya to try to help change homophobic attitudes in the country. And those kind of things work. Foreign aid for America has made America what America is since World War II.
That's true.
Right.
Congratulations to them. It's really a wonderful program.
Next week, we're up South Florida and Florida. Florida man arrested for threatening mass LGBTQ+ school shooting. A Florida college student is under arrest after he allegedly used the popular instant messaging and social media platform Discord to threaten a mass shooting at Florida State University. Sean Michael Albert, 19, of Winter Park, and a student at Full Sail University, was arrested on Tuesday and charged with making an interstate communication to threaten to injure another person. The criminal complaint alleges that on December 16 of last year, Albert posted a picture to a Discord server showing an AK-47 with the following text, quote, 600 West College Ave, Tallahassee, Florida, 32306 at 1300 December 17th, 2022, 100 faggots will die. See you there, end quote. The threat was posted by user Bloodstained Sand number 0088, and the address listed is Florida State University. The threat was reported to the FBI in Orlando, and an investigation was opened. FSU increased patrols on campus, and Discord voluntarily provided authorities with the relevant information associated with the user making the threat. Albert was quickly identified as the owner of the account. According to the authorities, FBI interviews with his roommate, landlord, and security manager at Full Sail University revealed that the charging documents describe as a, quote, a history of violence and a pattern of concerning behavior, end quote, from Albert. I am so glad that they're doing everything that they can and that they did get him, because that's a massive threat.
Right.
Yeah, well, I hope they keep him locked up, though.
Yes.
Okay, because
That is something we have
let's
to
think
think
about
about.
the Club Q gentleman that had all kinds of red flags. His mom had told authorities he had been picked up here and there, and yet he still got access to a gun, yet he still killed all those people at that LGBTQ plus club. So this Albert dude, throw him away, put him away, do something with him. Have eyes on him all the time, because that thought doesn't just go away.
No.
Right.
Yeah, and Orlando has been through enough already. We all been through enough already. We need
North
to-
Florida truly doesn't need any more. And I think while there is that, now that he has been arrested, he no longer can legally purchase a weapon.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Evan.
there are
It's
so many
Florida. I
ways.
can get a weapon right now in the
Of course, it's
corner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If you go to the governor's mansion in Tallahassee, they'll open the door and hand you one.
Whichever one you want.
You'll be able to carry it.
Open up the closet.
Seriously, if I want a pink silencer, they have one right there.
But also a big thank you to the person who reported this to the
Yes.
FBI.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you see something, you should speak up
Yes,
about it
sir.
and report it.
Threats are a
Especially-
crime.
Yes.
We have
yes.
to agree, and I hear that's Faye's point, and it's heard loud and clear. The threat is the crime. You don't have to have killed somebody. The threat is the crime. You know, I want to say his name over and over again. Sean Michael Albert. Sean Michael Albert. Sean Michael Albert. I hope Queer News Tonight, when we share tonight's broadcast and this story, tag his name right in the SEO, because every time somebody ever mentions his name on social media, we want to see all of he threatened to kill 100 faggots.
Right.
Because that's what he did.
Right.
And forever, through his entire life, he did it. My second thought is, it's interesting, because when we talk about Texas, for example, and the evil genius of making third-party prevention in Don't Say Gay, and I talk about how genius the evil genius is, they also, in this set, also have incredibly ignorant and stupid people. And Sean Michael Albert, you're incredibly stupid and incredibly ignorant.
Oh, yeah.
Because what were you thinking by going onto your platform and saying, here's the picture of my AK, and here's the address that I'm going to go to, and I'm going to kill
the date,
100
the time.
faggots, the date and the time. What really smart activist, murderer, whatever you want to call yourself, you might be one of the dumbest criminals ever in the history of the world.
Well, I know you were saying that the school is like this pretty liberal school, but I'm sorry. To me, it sounds like the name of a school that you might see advertising on a matchbook cover or in the back of a comic book.
It is. I've gotten ads.
It's a really good school.
No, I've gotten the ads
yes,
for
I'm
it
saying.
just on YouTube.
Yeah.
One final thought of it. When I read this and I thought, this guy is so incredibly stupid and ignorant. Please forgive me for using these incendiary words. And then I realized, oh wait, no, this is one other time that I thought was incredibly stupid. There was this guy back in in December of 2020. No, it was in December of 20, who said, meet me on January 6th up at the Capitol. It's going to be wild. Maybe I'm getting
Words.
this wrong.
Well, maybe Sean Michael Albert is trying to run for Congress.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, right, exactly.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church right here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
I'm Jeff Del May. I'm a husband and a father of a 12-year-old son and a queer activist. And Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, we finished tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up entertainment. From LGBTQ plus news partner GameSpot and writer Lan Pitts. Stranger Things star Noah Schnapp comes out as gay on TikTok. Noah Schnapp, the young actor who plays the closeted gay teenager Will Byers on Netflix's Stranger Things, has come out in real life as gay. Posting to TikTok on Thursday, Schnapp said, quote, "When I finally told my friends and family I was gay after being scared in the closet for 18 years, and all they said was, 'We know,' end quote." The star added a lip-sync video over the quote, "You know what, it never was that serious. It was never that serious. Quite frankly, we'll never be that serious. With the text, I guess I'm more similar to Will than I thought," end quote. Read more about it at GameSpot.com.
You know what, it never was that serious. It was never that serious. Quite frankly, we'll never be that serious.
Q plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the USA view from LGBTQ plus news partner Metro Weekly and writer John Riley. Here's what you need to know about Mid-Atlantic Leather Weekend. If you are planning to attend this year's MAL from January 13th, here are 7 essential things you should know. You will need a day pass to gain entry to the host hotel. A regular staple of the Mid-Atlantic Leather Weekend is the exhibit hall, featuring the event's famous leather mart. There will be no dance parties in the hotel. The popular puppy mosh is back. No kink demonstrations this year. Onyx will host its annual fashion show on Saturday afternoon, and attendees should be polite and courteous. Hope you enjoy the event. Read more at metroweekly.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the worldview. From LGBTQ plus news partner Passport Magazine and writer Robert Adams. Rock-hard Italian men and the Foro Italico photographs by George Mott. Boasting that his forum would be grander than the Colosseum, Mussolini created the Stadium of Statues for the 1944 Olympic Games. Hauntingly erotic, each statue stands 12 feet tall, nude, but for the occasional headband or sandals. So blatant was their sexual presence that the statues later provoked furtive attempts at decency involving fig leaves and loincloths. George Mott, who first glimpsed the statues in 1962 and photographed them 20 years later, said, quote, "The Foro Italico sustains a guileless, perhaps unique male eroticism, which is at odds with the grandiloquent intentions of its planners and creators in Mussolini's fascist regime," end quote. Read more at passportmagazine.com. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. And on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including FayWhat, Evyn Almanzar, Elijah Manley, and Gregg Shapiro. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. But before we end our show, we have one final story. Let's queer up religion. Kenyan LGBTQ plus activist body is found stuffed in a box, and what Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins says in a Sunday service is important. LGBTQ plus advocate and activist Edwin Chilaba's body was found stuffed in a metal box on the road in the country of Kenya. The LGBTQIA plus community continues to be incarcerated in Kenya under the British-era laws criminalizing homosexuality and penalizing gay sex with 14 years of jail time. The Kenyan police are investigating the death of the LGBTQ plus activist. The deceased was taken to Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital for experts to establish the cause of his death. The Kenyan Human Rights Commission on Friday called Edwin a victim of, quote, another disgusting act of homophobic violence, end quote. This week, the senior pastor of Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church, had some interesting thoughts and talked about the meaning of the American LGBTQ plus community's reaction on this hideous crime in Africa.
On Friday, in Kenya, it was reported that LGBTQ activist Edwin Chiloba was found dead on the side of the road, stuffed in a metal box. Chiloba was a model and he operated a fashion business, and he was a campaigner for LGBTQ rights. He was brutally killed by unknown assailants. A fellow Kenyan gay rights activist called Chiloba a fighter committed to changing the hearts and minds of society toward LGBT people. Kenya has recently banned certain films for having gay content, gay character, gay storyline, just the existence of gayness. Films banned. Violence against LGBTQ Kenyans has been on the rise in recent years, not just in Kenya, but certainly including Kenya. Under a British colonial era law still on the books, homosexual activity in Kenya is punishable by up to 14 years in prison. The law is rarely enforced, but harsh and anti-queer discrimination remains. If who you are and how you love is on the books as criminal, why should anyone treat you with any dignity or respect? And that is how it works. Kenya seems a world away, and we who aren't even part of that country or culture may feel powerless to help. And I urge us to resist that feeling of helplessness. When I was a young minister, I remember seeing a bird's nest on the church lawn. And as I approached the nest to investigate, I noticed some eggs in the nest. And then I noticed just a few feet away, a scrawny little mother bird, chest out, cursing me out, and threatening me mightily in her little bird voice. Now, I don't doubt if she had pecked or scratched me, that it would have been unpleasant. But her chances of saving her eggs from me if I turned out to be truly villainous were slim indeed. Still, instinctively, she did whatever she could. She's this big. She wasn't big enough to eat. I would have thrown that back as a tapas. It was just tiny little thing. And yet she stood up to quite sizable me. She did what she could, as ridiculous as it seemed. Was she equal to the perceived threat? Maybe not. And still, she raised her little bird voice and took a stand in defense of her helpless eggs. We might feel small and powerless, like a little bird, chirp and squawk anyway. Decency demands it. Injustice may occur over our protest, but may it never happen under our silence. My clarion call today is for us to lift our voices, however squeaky and ridiculous our protest may seem. Share credible news articles on social media to make people aware of anti-queer violence. Sign petitions to protect queer people all over the world, and don't listen to those who say it won't work. It might not. Squawk and flap anyway. And continue your support of Sunshine Cathedral. As we thrive, we serve as a light to queer people and their allies all over the world. Our existence is a message to every LGBTQ child of God: you are God's miracle and not God's mistake. Let us be the voice of the voiceless. And may God's blessing be upon the LGBTQ people of Kenya. Amen.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus